There is a book in the Bible that skeptics have spent 200 years trying to discredit. Not because it is obscure, not because it is confusing, because it is too accurate. The prophecies in the book of Daniel describe the rise and fall of world empires with a precision that makes scholars uncomfortable. We are talking about specific kingdoms named before they existed, military campaigns described before they happened, the exact sequence of rulers in a dynasty that would not come to power for another 2 centuries after Daniel wrote. The standard response from critics has been simple. Daniel must have been written after the fact. It has to be. No one predicts history that accurately unless they are writing history and calling it prophecy. But here is the problem with that argument. The evidence keeps pushing the date of composition earlier, not later. And the Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in 1947, contained portions of Daniel that forced even the most skeptical scholars to revise their dating. The manuscript evidence places Daniel earlier than the critics need it to be for their theory to work. So either Daniel is the greatest literary fraud in the ancient world, or it is exactly what it claims to be. A record of visions given to a man living in Babylon in the 6th century BC, describing the next 600 years of world history with a precision that has no natural explanation. We are going to walk through every major prophecy in chronological order. We are going to match them against actual recorded history. And then we are going to look at the ones that have not happened yet. Because Daniel does not stop at Rome. First, you need to know who Daniel was and where he was writing from. The year is approximately 605 BC. The Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar has just conquered Jerusalem. He did not destroy it yet. That comes later. But he took something more valuable than gold. He took people. Specifically, he took the brightest young men from the best families in Judah. The strategy was deliberate. You do not just conquer a nation militarily, you conquer it intellectually. You take its best minds, immerse them in your culture, give them new names, teach them your language and your literature, and turn them into instruments of your empire. Daniel was one of those young men. He was probably a teenager when he arrived in Babylon. He would live there for the rest of his life, serving under multiple empires, watching kingdoms rise and fall around him, and recording visions that described what was coming with a clarity that still demands an explanation. The first major prophetic vision in Daniel does not come from Daniel himself. It comes from Nebuchadnezzar. The king has a dream that disturbs him so deeply he cannot sleep. He calls his magicians and astrologers and demands they tell him both the dream and its interpretation, not one or the other, both. He will not tell them what he dreamed. They have to tell him. If they cannot, he will have them executed. Nobody can do it. Except Daniel. Daniel 2, verse 28. There is a God in heaven who reveals mysteries, and he has shown King Nebuchadnezzar what will happen in days to come. The dream is of a massive statue, extraordinary in appearance, terrifying in size, and built from 4 different materials from top to bottom. The head is gold, the chest and arms are silver, the belly and thighs are bronze, the legs are iron, and the feet are a mixture of iron and clay. Then a stone, cut without human hands, strikes the statue at its feet. The whole thing collapses. The stone becomes a mountain that fills the entire earth. Daniel's interpretation is explicit. He names the first kingdom directly. You, O king, are the head of gold, Nebuchadnezzar's Babylonian empire, the greatest empire the ancient Near East had ever seen, wealthy beyond measure. Gold is the right metal. After you, Daniel tells him, another kingdom will arise inferior to yours. That kingdom was Medo-Persia. The silver chest, it conquered Babylon in 539 BC, exactly as Daniel said it would. An event we will come back to in a moment. Silver is the right metal. The Medo-Persian Empire was vast, but its power was more diffused, spread across a coalition of peoples rather than concentrated in one absolute monarch. After that, a third kingdom, one of bronze, which will rule over the whole earth. Greece. Alexander the Great. Bronze is the right metal. Greek soldiers were famous throughout the ancient world for their bronze armor and weaponry. Alexander's conquest was staggering in its speed and scope. He took the Persian Empire and kept going east until his army refused to march any further. And then, the fourth kingdom, strong as iron. Iron breaks and smashes everything. Rome. The iron legs. Rome did not conquer through charm or sophisticated diplomacy. It conquered through force. Iron military discipline applied to every nation it touched. Rome broke things. That is the right metal. But then, the feet, iron mixed with clay, a divided kingdom, partly strong and partly brittle. Daniel 2, verse 43. They will try to ally themselves by marriage, but they will not hold together just as iron does not mix with clay. The fragmented kingdoms that followed Rome, the attempted alliances, royal marriages, diplomatic treaties, all trying to hold together what Rome had held by force, and none of them succeeding. 4 metals, 4 kingdoms, gold, silver, bronze, iron, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, written in the 6th century BC, fulfilled across the next 600 years. Now move to Daniel chapter 7. A different vision, same structure, different imagery. 4 beasts rise from the sea. The first is like a lion with eagle's wings. Babylon. The lion was Babylon's national symbol. It was literally carved on the walls of the Ishtar Gate, which you can still see today in the Pergamon Museum in Berlin. Eagle's wings for the speed of its conquests. The second is like a bear, raised up on one side with 3 ribs in its mouth. Medo Persia. The bear raised on one side points to the dominance of Persia over Media within the coalition. The 3 ribs represent the 3 major conquests that built the empire: Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt. The third is like a leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads. Greece. A leopard is already fast. A leopard with 4 wings is describing a speed of conquest that has no natural parallel. Alexander the Great conquered the known world in roughly 11 years. When he died at 32 years old, his 4 generals divided his empire. 4 heads, 4 divisions. The 4th beast is described differently from the others. It has no animal comparison because there is nothing in nature to compare it to. It is terrifying and dreadful and extremely strong. It has large iron teeth. It crushes and devours and tramples. Rome. But then something happens inside this vision that the statue dream did not show. A little horn grows up among 10 horns on the 4th beast's head. It uproots 3 of them. It has eyes like a man and a mouth speaking boastful things. This detail is what separates Daniel chapter 7 from a simple repeat of chapter 2. The statue dream shows the sequence. Chapter 7 begins to show what happens inside the 4th kingdom. The 10 horns pointing to the fragmented successor states of Rome, and something rising among them. We will come back to that. Now move to Daniel chapter 8. And this is where the precision becomes almost uncomfortable. Daniel sees a ram with 2 horns, one longer than the other. The longer horn came up last. It charges west, north, and south. Nothing can stand against it. Then a goat comes from the west, moving so fast its feet do not touch the ground. It has a single prominent horn between its eyes. It charges the ram and shatters it completely. Daniel 8, verse 20. The 2-horned ram represents the kings of Media and Persia. Daniel 8, verse 21. The shaggy goat is the king of Greece. The large horn between its eyes is the first king. This is not symbolic anymore. The angel Gabriel appears in the vision and names the kingdoms by name: Persia and Greece, written 2 centuries before Alexander the Great was born. And then, at the height of its power, the large horn is broken, and 4 prominent horns grow up in its place toward the 4 winds of heaven. Alexander died suddenly at 32 years old in 323 BC. His empire was divided among his 4 generals, Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy. 4 horns toward the 4 winds, but then the vision narrows further. Out of one of those 4 horns, a small horn grows. It expands toward the south, toward the east, and toward the beautiful land. It grows in power. It takes away the daily sacrifice. It desecrates the sanctuary. This is Antiochus IV Epiphanes, a ruler of the Seleucid line, one of Alexander's successor kingdoms, who came to power in 175 BC. He invaded Egypt. He invaded Israel. He entered Jerusalem. He stopped the daily sacrifices in the temple. He set up an altar to Zeus in the Holy of Holies, and he sacrificed a pig on the altar. The Jewish historian Josephus records these events in detail. They are confirmed by Roman historians. They happened exactly as Daniel described, down to the direction of the military campaigns and the desecration of the sanctuary. Daniel 8 was written in the 6th century BC. Antiochus IV desecrated the temple in 167 BC. The gap is approximately 400 years. This is why skeptics needed Daniel to be written after the fact, because this chapter reads like a history book for events that had not happened yet. Now move to Daniel chapter 9, and this is the one that stops people cold. Daniel is reading the scroll of Jeremiah and realizes the 70 years of Babylonian captivity are almost complete. He begins to pray, and Gabriel appears again. Daniel 9, verse 24. 70 weeks are decreed for your people and your holy city to finish transgression, to put an end to sin, to atone for wickedness, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy place. 70 weeks in prophetic language means 70 units of 7, 70 sevens, 490 years. Then Gabriel breaks it down. Daniel 9, verse 25. From the time the word goes out to restore and rebuild Jerusalem until the Anointed One, the ruler, comes, there will be 7 sevens and 62 sevens. 7 plus 62 equals 69. 69 units of 7 equals 483 years. The decree to restore and rebuild Jerusalem was issued by the Persian king Artaxerxes in 445 BC. This is a historically documented event recorded in Nehemiah chapter 2. 483 years from 445 BC lands, depending on how you calculate the prophetic calendar, in the range of 30 to 33 AD, the years of the public ministry of Jesus of Nazareth. Daniel 9 verse 26 continues, after the 62 sevens, the Anointed One will be cut off and will have nothing. The Anointed One. Cut off. Written 6 centuries before the crucifixion. So let us step back and look at what we have covered. Daniel chapter 2 gives the sequence of 4 world empires in the correct order: Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome. Daniel chapter 7 gives the same sequence through different imagery and adds detail about what happens inside the 4th empire. Daniel chapter 8 names Persia and Greece explicitly, describes Alexander's conquest and death, names the 4-way division of his empire, and then zooms in on one successor ruler who desecrates the Jerusalem temple 400 years before it happened. Daniel chapter 9 calculates the time from a specific Persian decree to the arrival of the Anointed One and his being cut off with a precision that lands in the 1st century AD. If Daniel is a fraud, it is the most elaborately accurate fraud in the history of human writing. Every detail would have to have been reverse-engineered from centuries of historical records, and then disguised as ancient prophecy without a single anachronism slipping through. The manuscript evidence would have to have been falsified. The Dead Sea Scrolls would have to be part of the deception. At some point, the simpler explanation is the correct one, but Daniel does not stop at events that have already happened. Go back to Daniel chapter 2. The stone cut without human hands. It strikes the statue at its feet, the iron and clay, and the whole statue collapses. The stone becomes a mountain that fills the entire earth. Daniel 2, verse 44. In the time of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed, nor will it be left to another people. It will crush all those other kingdoms and bring them to an end, but it will itself endure forever. A kingdom that will never be destroyed, that fills the whole earth, set up not by human hands, but by God himself. Go back to Daniel chapter 7. After the vision of the 4 beasts and the little horn, Daniel sees something else. Daniel 7, verses 13 and 14. In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man, coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. He was given authority, glory, and sovereign power. All nations and peoples of every language worshipped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed, one like a son of man, receiving a kingdom from the Ancient of Days, all nations worshipping him, an everlasting dominion. Jesus uses this exact phrase, Son of Man, to refer to himself more than any other title in the Gospels, 80 times. And at his trial before the Sanhedrin, when the high priest demands to know if he is the Messiah, Jesus answers in Mark 14, verse 62, I am, and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven. He is quoting Daniel 7:13 directly at his own trial, to the people who will condemn him to death. So what does this mean for right now? Daniel's prophecies move in a clear direction. They start with Babylon, which existed when Daniel wrote. They move through Persia, Greece, and Rome, all confirmed by history. They narrow to specific rulers, specific events, specific dates, all confirmed by history. They reach the 1st century A.D., and the arrival and death of the Anointed One, confirmed by history. And then they look further, the stone that fills the earth, the everlasting kingdom given to the Son of Man, the dominion that will not pass away. These have not happened yet, not completely. But here is what Daniel establishes before he gets there. Every single prediction he made about kingdoms that could be verified has been verified. Every empire fell in the sequence he described. Every military campaign went in the direction he said. Every ruler played the role assigned to them centuries in advance. The dating of the Messiah lands in the right century. Daniel does not give you reasons to doubt the remaining prophecies. He gives you reasons to take them seriously. The stone is coming. The kingdom that cannot be destroyed is coming. The Son of Man, who receives dominion over all nations and peoples and languages, is not a figure waiting to be identified. He has already been identified. He identified himself at his own trial, quoting the book you just walked through. And the last thing Daniel is told in the final chapter of his book, after all the visions and all the interpretations and all the empires rising and falling across 600 years of history, is this. Daniel 12, verse 13. As for you, go your way till the end. You will rest, and then at the end of days you will rise to receive your allotted inheritance. A man who watched empires collapse around him, who served 4 kings in 2 different empires, who recorded visions he did not fully understand. And the last word he receives is not about kingdoms or timelines or military campaigns. It is personal. Go your way. You will rest. You will rise. The same promise the prophecies point toward. The same kingdom the stone becomes. The same inheritance every name written in that book receives. Not just history. Not just prediction. a promise aimed at a person, and it is still aimed at you. If this opened Daniel in a way you have not seen before, the most important thing you can do is subscribe and leave a comment. Even one word helps other people find this content. Share it with someone who thinks prophecy is too complicated to take seriously. God bless you.